Hey, what's up, guys? We're on the Fire Sports Pod, where everything you got is hot. I'm your host, Zack Jackson. Welcome back to another podcast powered by StreamYard, where StreamYard makes the dream yard go. Let's get right into Recap Tuesday for Season 9, Episode number 12. All right, guys. So, March Madness, we are in the Sweet 16 coming up Thursday. I believe the game's starting on Thursday. So, we're going to be going over for our first segment my bracket and how it's doing compared to others, as well as going over some of the shocking upsets for some of the college basketball games that happened over this past week. And then we're going to be going into the NBA standings for our second segment and final segment of today's podcast, which is going over just where the playoffs could match up right now. Lakers had a 9-game winning streak up until last night, where they lost to the Pistons by 3. Other than that, that will be pretty much it for the podcast. We'll have another podcast coming out on Thursday, which will be Season 9, Episode number 13. Other than that, guys, let's get right into it. I'm going to share my screen, and we will get rolling on this podcast about some epic games that happened over this past weekend when it comes to March Madness. I, myself, was very shocked at some of the outcomes. So this is my bracket here, and right now we're at 490. We're ranked 2 million out of, I forgot how many people did this bracket. It's 90%. Rate for 990 points. Right here we have number 1 Duke. We picked them to beat Siena. They almost lost this game. Siena was up by I think 11 in the first half, going into the second half. Excuse me. And Duke was able to prevail. Thank God. Cameron Boozer came up big time for Duke, so they were able to advance to take on TCU, which my pick was Ohio State to take down TCU. I liked Ohio State. They just got out-rebounded big time, and TCU shot better than them. But Ohio State made a comeback. They were down as much as 15 in the game, and they came back, and they only lost by 2. They had a chance, but they could not get the job done. So TCU took on Duke, where TCU was bringing Duke some hard matchups there, man. The first half was very close. Second half, it went from an 8-point game at one point with 10 minutes to go. Literally, TCU scored. It was 59-50, and literally they ended up scoring 8 more points, TCU, in the last 10 minutes, and Duke went on to score 22 points in the second half, or in the last 10 minutes of the second half. So it just shows you who's the better team. So Duke will play St. John's, and now we'll get to our next part of it, where St. John's took on Northern Iowa, and St. John's absolutely dominated them very easily as predicted. Kansas had a bit of a scare against CBU, but they were able to get the win 68-60, where they had a fantastic matchup on Sunday against Kansas with Darren Peterson and Shea Johns, but it was Darling that came up massive for them. Hits the game-winning layup, 67-65 as the buzzer goes off. What a game this was. I picked St. John's to take on Duke, and that's exactly what matched up. So the only game we got wrong in that spot was the Ohio State game, which kind of sucked because no matter what, Ohio State or TCU was going to lose to Duke, but it is what it is. Cards were not in my favor on that part of that bracket. Then we moved down to where Louisville took down South Florida in a close one. This game I actually picked Louisville. Putting in a bet, I actually wanted to take South Florida with this. I figured that they could make the upset. Just South Florida just could not box out. They could not box out. Louisville was just making more shots. South Florida was able to come back from down over 10 points in this game, but it was not enough. South Florida did have a chance at the end, but they could not prevail again. So Louisville took on Michigan State in the next round, where Michigan State took down North Dakota State pretty handily, 92-67. And then they had a great matchup between Louisville and Michigan State, where Michigan State was able to get the upper hand. Louisville was also out one of their best guys, which kind of sucked because that kind of hurt them big time, just to show you how well they could have been with their 1-2 punch that they had. But he was hurt, I believe, with a back injury, if I'm not mistaken. So Michigan State was able to prevail, and they were able to win 77-69 to advance to play UConn, where I got all this right here. So in this part of the bracket here, from the St. John, in this east side of the bracket, the only game I got wrong was the Ohio State TCU. So pretty good in the east side. Where we had UCLA take down UCF 75-71. Good game there was. UCF had it like some other games earlier. This team had their shot, but they could not prevail. Then UConn versus Furman. Actually, Furman put up a bigger fight than UCLA, but UCLA got their like right before the game, their best player was out with an injury, so kind of sucked there. I think he was over 20 points a game scorer for them. So 73-57, UConn dominated UCLA, and now makes a matchup between Dan Hurley and Tom Izzo. This is going to be a massive matchup coming up. And then you got the newly coach for Duke that came in for Coach K. And then you got Rick Pitino, who's been one of the best coaches in college basketball for a very long time. So the East side was a good side for me. I got one game wrong, like I said. So the matchup is Duke versus St. John's. Right now, I got a couple friends who go to St. John's who are managers there. I really want to go with St. John's for the upset. Obviously, I picked Duke to take down St. John's, but I think it's going to be a very close game. It's going to come down to the wire. Obviously, my pick is Duke, but don't sleep on St. John's. If you want to go with St. John's, I wouldn't be opposed to it, and I wouldn't think you're crazy. Michigan State versus UConn. I think we all know. Here, I picked an upset. I took Michigan State. I like Tom Izzo and the way their team is playing. It really just depends if UConn's on. If they're on, they're going to destroy them. It's going to be a close game, but when I mean destroy, they win by 8 to 10 points pretty convincingly. But I think Michigan State could get this win, and there will be a matchup in I believe the Elite Eight, which would be Duke versus Michigan State. Now, moving on to the west side of the bracket, we had Arizona take down Long Island. They were able to get the job done 92-58 pretty easily. I picked actually Villanova in this game. A lot of people picked Villanova. Utah State made the upset here, 86-76. So Villanova went down. So got that game wrong. Then Arizona played Utah State. They won by 12. Utah State put up a little bit of a fight, but Arizona was able to prevail. I like the way Arizona's been playing. Again, we haven't even been able to see Bryce James. He's redshirting this year, so he'll be there next year. So they're going to be good next year as well. And then Wisconsin against High Point. A lot of people had this wrong. I was very surprised that a lot of people actually picked High Point to beat Wisconsin. They won off, I believe, a buzzer beater, 83-82. Very close game, very shocking outage there. So that game I got wrong. So back-to-back games, not the best. But we picked the Arizona game to beat Utah. And then Arkansas took down Hawaii pretty easily, 97-78. Darius Akoff is just a beast. And then that was the same guy that took down High Point, man. He came in there. I think he scored over 25 in this game, and he just put this team on his back and won the game. And it was a close game. High Point's a really good team. They got a lot of shooters. One kid is like freaking Steph Curry out there. But Arkansas was the better team, and now it's a matchup between Arkansas and Arizona. Obviously, I have Arizona as my pick to win it all. But, man, do not sleep on Arkansas. Darius Akoff is a beast. And no more A.J. Devanza. You got Cameron Boozer. You got no more Peterson. So it's really Boozer and Darius Akoff, who are the top two out of the four that are definitely going to be locked for top 5 in the NBA draft this coming year. I would not sleep on Arkansas. They got the team to do it and to win it all behind Darius Akoff and Kentucky's old coach, John Calipari. He's the head coach there. So they definitely got the experience there. Now moving on, we had BYU, man. What a sad place. I mean, I thought BYU was a lot better. Again, I didn't watch a lot of games of BYU, but some of the games I did see, they were doing really well. They just could not get anything going. I mean, A.J. Devanza had 35 points. The team had 34. I mean, I don't know, or 32. He had more points than the entire team, or 36. He had basically the same amount of points that the whole team had, and just one guy. So they really let him down. I think they could have made a good run here if they would have had a collective effort. But they lost to Texas in a big upset, 79-71. When Gonzaga was able to get a 9-point win against Kennesaw State, 73-64. And then what a massive upset. Texas takes down Gonzaga in a really good game. It was a very competitive game, but Texas was able to get the win, and they took down them 74-68. Where then We moved to Miami versus Missouri. This wasn't even a contest. Miami blew them out the water. Purdue also blew Queens out the water. And then a good matchup. Purdue, Miami went back and forth. Purdue was able to get the win by 10. And then you had Texas versus Purdue. Obviously, I had BYU. That I told you, I had BYU going to the Elite Eight. So they really screwed me on that one. But it is what it is. Texas versus Purdue. Obviously, I'm going to go with Purdue. I think Purdue's the better team. They should win this game. I think it's going to be a close game. Texas is able to take down BYU and Gonzaga and score over 70 points in each of those games. So I think they have a shot to beat Purdue. Would it surprise me to get the upset? No. But it would be very, very crazy that they're winning against BYU, Gonzaga, and then Purdue. It's going to be tough. So I think the matchup I want to see is Arizona or Arkansas versus Purdue instead of Arizona or Arkansas versus Texas, because I think if that's the case, it's going to be a blowout. So that's my pick. Arizona versus Arkansas. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised. Would not be mad if anybody put Arkansas, because at this point right now in the bracket, I really want to take Arkansas, and I wish I would have changed my pick, but I'm going to stick with Arizona because Arizona is the champions for me, but would not be surprised if Arkansas is sitting right here winning this thing this year. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So it will be a matchup between Arizona and Purdue, Duke versus MSU, Michigan State. We will again go over a little bit more on Thursday of my picks from the Elite Eight to the Final Four. And then to the championship. Obviously, you guys know I have the championship here, but we'll go more in depth as games start back up for the Sweet 16 on Thursday. So stay tuned for that. Now moving on to the South and the Midwest. In this pretty crazy over here. So we did okay. I mean, we didn't do as good as we did in the East. We only got one game wrong. In the West, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games wrong. So it wasn't the best there. So we really lost a lot of points on the on the West side. Now moving to the South side, Florida takes down Purdue 114-55. That was ridiculous. I mean, they don't even deserve to be in March Madness. You lose by over 50 is crazy. And then we had Iowa get the win over Clemson in a 6-point win. This was a great game. Iowa's played their ass off, and then they took on Florida, defending champs. They won with 4 seconds left. The guy hits a corner 3. They're only up 1, and then Florida races down the court, and they can't get a quality shot off. Actually, guy passes the ball into the paint, and it just gets tipped, and the game's over. So they didn't even get a quality shot off, Florida, or at least a shot off at the basket. I forgot the kid's name, but he had a good. Dude, if he would have did a little push floater, right, as the guy has him on the corner, trying to push him out of bounds or go under the basket, he had a nice touch floater. Or if he would have stopped on the go and just pulled up, he had 2 options to me that he could have scored or at least had a shot on the basket. That's not the case. So I picked Florida to beat Iowa. That did not happen. So Iowa is taking on Nebraska, which was another crazy game. Vanderbilt takes down McNeese. McNeese, man, I love McNeese, but again, they played their hearts out, but Vanderbilt's the better team. So I picked them. Nebraska took down Troy pretty handily. I mean, by 19 points. It's pretty bad. By 29 points. Sorry. That's even worse. Nebraska then took on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, the young kid, man, he had a half-court heave and it literally bounced in and out of the rim and went out. That would have been one of the greatest shots in March Madness basketball history, and they would have won the game. But they did not. So Vanderbilt was my pick to verse Florida. But obviously it's the number 9 Iowa versus the number 4 Nebraska. That's March Madness for you. It's madness. These 2 teams are not supposed to be here, but they are. And Iowa takes on Nebraska. Now, I like the way Nebraska's played. But I like the way Iowa's played. They've beaten Clemson, and they beat the defending champs. I'm going to have to go with an upset here. I'm going to take Iowa to take down Nebraska to advance to the Elite Eight, which is absolutely crazy. Who would have thought number 9 Iowa was going to be in the Elite Eight? For me, I think they're the better team. I think they can beat Nebraska, since they did beat the defending champs in Florida. Now, moving on, North Carolina, I think, stunned everybody. VCU upsetted them by 4, coming back from 18, I believe, in the second half to win that game. So that was a bit of a shock. And then VCU would take on Illinois, where Illinois took down Penn by 35. So right there, VCU takes down plays against Illinois, and Illinois kills them by 21. So as constructed, Illinois makes it to the Sweet 16, where they will verse Houston. So the only game in this little section here that I got wrong was the North Carolina game, where then we had Texas A&M take down St. Mary's in an upset, 63-50. St. Mary's just doesn't play a lot of good competition. They always have good records, just like Gonzaga. Gonzaga is the one team that actually plays good. But they don't play a lot of good teams, and Texas A&M is a strong, gritty team. They're in the SEC, so they play big-time names, big-time teams all the time. So they're just a grittier team. And then you had Houston take down Idaho, obviously not even a question. And then Houston played Texas A&M. Thought this was going to be a closer game. Houston absolutely smoked them, 88-57, where it took up a matchup into the Sweet 16 to go to the Elite 8, the 3 versus the 2. I have Houston over Illinois. So Houston will play Iowa in the Elite 8. Stay tuned to see where I'm going to go with that one. Now, going to the Midwest, we have Michigan take down Howard. Pretty handled. They won by 21. Then we had St. Louis. I don't know what the hell happened. I guess I didn't take a look at St. Louis or Georgia, but St. Louis won by 25. The 9 versus the 8. It was pretty crazy that this was this big of a blowout. Did not expect it, but that's what happens in March Madness. So that was wrong. And then we had Texas Tech take on Akron. Texas Tech killed them by 20. Got that game right. Alabama took down Hofstra 90-70. This game was pretty close until the second half came in. Then Alabama took down Texas Tech 90-65. Then we had a matchup between Michigan and St. Louis. This was close early in the first half and early in the second half. The whole first half and early in the second half, and then Michigan just blew them out the water, 95-72. So this matches up with the time to go to the Elite 8, which is Michigan versus Alabama. Where for me, I'm taking Michigan. I like the way Michigan's been playing. I think they're the better team, especially Alabama missing the guy who got arrested for having too much marijuana in his dorm room. Other than that, that's one of the reasons why I'm taking Michigan. They don't have full strength of Alabama, and I just like the way Michigan plays. They play very, very well and constructive. I like them a lot. So moving on from there, we have Tennessee versus Miami, Ohio. Tennessee killed Miami, Ohio pretty easily. I wanted to go with the Cinderella story and see if they can make it to the second round, but they did not. They got killed. Virginia against Wright State, only won by 9. Case in point, Tennessee upsets Virginia by 7 to advance to the Sweet 16. Then we had Kentucky. They knocked down Santa Clara. What a game Otega Owe had. He had 35, hit the bank. He hit a bank 3 from half court to tie the game to send it to overtime, and then he knocks them down there. Then you had Iowa State take down Tennessee State, and man, it looked so promising for my Wildcats in Kentucky. They were down they were up by 12 in the first 5 minutes of the game, and it was like, oh my God, are they going to blow out Iowa State? They're going to keep it close. They're going to have a great game here. They're going to win it. Otega Owe was off to a great start, and then that was it. That was it. The first half was great. We were down 31-30, and then, they scored 50 points in the second, they scored 50 points in the second half. They have, I'm flabbergasted on how we just went from only down 1 to them end up scoring 51 in the second half. I don't understand how that's even possible. They scored only 31 in the first half and 51 in the second half. So they ended up with 82 at the end of the game. We scored 30 and we end up with 63. So we only scored 33. absurd that we just had no offense. We couldn't make any shots. We couldn't defend. They were just knocking down fucking three-pointers left and right. So it sucked because I think Kentucky could have won that game. But it is what it is. They lost. So the matchup is Tennessee versus Iowa State, where we have, I believe, my pick was ASU over Virginia. So Iowa State should be going against Michigan here. I will take Iowa State to take down Tennessee. I think Tennessee's run is over. Them beating Virginia was a little bit crazy, but not as crazy. I just think Iowa State is the better team. So they will match up against Michigan. So the next round would be Iowa versus Houston in the Elite Eight. Michigan versus Iowa State in the Elite Eight for the Midwest. And then we will have Arizona versus Purdue and Duke versus Michigan State. So those are the Elite Eights for me. And that is pretty much it for the first segment on today's podcast, going over our March Madness bracket and how we're doing so far. So that's pretty much it. And we are going to be moving on to the next segment, a quick one, another probably 9 or 8 minutes or so. And we're going to be going over the NBA standings because we are, I think, 2.5, almost 3 weeks away from the playoffs. We're almost at the end of March, where tomorrow's March 25th, which is actually my birthday. And then we're moving on, and then we're into April, and then May, and then June. So we are right around the corner from the finals, from the playoffs, and this is where the NBA gets very interesting. So we're going to share our screen, and we're going to look over the ESPN rankings and standings for right now in the NBA. So we're going to start with the Eastern Conference because the East is not as bad as it used to be. We have the Pistons at 52-19. They're doing really well, but one thing is there's a problem. Cade Cunningham has a collapsed lung, and he is going to be out for a significant amount of time. The time is to be determined. So we don't know how long he's going to be out with a collapsed lung. Detroit, unless they go on a horrible losing streak, which I don't think they are. They have Jalen Duren. They have Isaiah Stewart. They got Duncan Robinson. They got a lot of dudes that can bring in. They're not going to win a lot, but they're going to keep their first place. So I think they stay at the first place mark, a little bit above the Boston Celtics, who are 5 games behind them in the 2 spot. But Detroit has a lot of questions. Is Cade going to come back fully healthy? Can he be the Cade that we know he can be? Or is there going to be a little bit of a lapse? Because that's right now, I don't see anybody beating Detroit in the East, even the Celtics. The Celtics probably at full strength have the best chance because everybody else can't fucking beat the Pistons. So I'd say the only other team other than them would be only the Cavs and the Knicks. But the Knicks can't beat them. They suck against them, and the Cavs are just up and down. So I'd say the only team that's consistent with Jason Tatum back would be the Celtics. But it'll probably be an Eastern Conference matchup. Wouldn't be surprised if it's Detroit versus Boston to go to the finals. My pick is the Pistons, depending if Cade is fully healthy and is the same Cade before his collapse lung, because he was in MVP conversations, an MVP top 3 candidate, and he has his team at a 52-19 record with 2 weeks left in the season. Now the Celtics at the 2 seed, 47-24. Jason Tatum came back and has looked fantastic. Obviously, he's not fully 100%, but he's had a lot of games where he looked great, movement-wise, defense-wise, just being the Jason Tatum that everybody knows and loves. He's back. The Celtics are back. Who would have thought they were there 7 months ago? They were going to be here, but they are here, and that just shows you how good the Celtics are as a franchise as well as a team put together. And then you have the Knicks. Knicks, I don't know. They're right there. They're half a game behind the Celtics. They're right in the thing to get the 2 seed. If I'm the Celtics, I'm worried more about the Knicks than I am the Pistons because they're right on their tail. So I would say they're probably right there. Just the Knicks are a little bit up and down. Are we going to get Mikal Bridges to be Mikal Bridges? Is he going to be playing worth the money that they gave him and the draft picks that they gave up for him? Because he's been playing really up and down. I mean, you saw Stephen A. Smith a couple weeks ago, just absolutely go off on him. Karl Anthony Towns, is he going to be the dog that that the Knicks need him to be? Jalen Brunson, we know we know he's going to get his, but it's the other guys. Are they going to be able to help him out? That's the biggest question mark for me that the Knicks have. Cleveland. I don't know what's the difference between Cleveland. They're not as good as they were last year. I don't know what has changed. Really, not a lot, but there is definitely a difference in the way Cleveland was last year to this year. But when you got Donovan Mitchell and now you added James Harden, I think it's going to be a great duo there come playoff time, and it's going to be an interesting one. Adding James Harden to this roster, and he's basically fully healthy, and he's playing defense. He's doing what he's got to do. Cleveland's going to be an interesting one just because of now the addition of James Harden and how well he's playing with Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, and Donovan Mitchell. Now, Toronto, 40-31. They're coming out of nowhere as well. They're right there, only 12 games back from the 1 seed. They're 4 games back from Cleveland, and they're 7 games back from Boston. Obviously, maybe not enough time to get to that sum, but they're going to be in the top 5 seed. The only team that's right behind them are a couple teams, actually, are the Hawks, who are a half game behind them. The 76ers, who are 1.5 games behind them. Orlando is 2 games behind them. And Miami's 2.5. And Charlotte is 3. So from the 5th seed to the 10th seed, you have a difference of 3 games. So if Charlotte goes on a run and wins, which they're on a tear, and we'll get to them in just a second, of a 5-6 game winning streak, they've already won 3 straight and won 7 out of 3. They go on another 5-game winning streak, and Toronto goes on a 2-game winning streak. They're right there. So this is going to be an interesting one to watch. Can we see Toronto screw it up? Does Charlotte bounce all the way to the 5 seed? Imagine Charlotte Hornets after the start of the season that they had. They end up being the 5th seed in the East. Would be pretty cool to see. No one wants to see Charlotte. No one. Boston, Detroit, New York, Cleveland. Nobody wants to see Charlotte in the first round because they are a up-and-coming, young, gritty team, fast-paced, shooting a lot. You're going to go to a long 6 games in this series to possibly a seventh game with the Hornets. They're that good, and they're that young and gritty to get to that spot. The 76ers, health is always an issue. Is Joel Embiid going to be healthy? Is Tyrese Maxey? Obviously, you got him. Is Paul George going to be back? And is he going to be back to Paul George right before the suspension? He should be. The Magic got a lot of question marks. Can Paolo Banchero get it done? Can he consistently get it? Can Desmond Bane? There's a lot of them. Miami, they're going to be always there, just the way Eric Spoelstra coaches. You got Bam Adebayo, you got Tyler Hero. I don't think they're a threat. I would say this team right here is a very dark horse team to upset 1 through 9. Any team can get it against Charlotte. I really think Charlotte's going to bounce. If I would have to put a playoff picture right now, obviously I would keep Detroit, Boston, New York, Cleveland. I would say Toronto stays there. I would say Charlotte gets to the 6th seed. Philly stays at 7. And I think Orlando gets the 8th spot in the play-in. So I think Miami's a 10 seed, Orlando's a 9 seed, Philly's an 8 seed, and Atlanta's a 7 seed. Charlotte's the 6th seed. So Atlanta, I believe, would play Atlanta would play Miami, and then Philly would play Orlando, something around those lines. And I think it would be Charlotte that gets this 6th spot. I think, and then Philly and Orlando. I think Philly gets this one here, and then I think Orlando gets the 8th seed. So I think the 8th seed, the top 8s would be Orlando, Philly, Charlotte, Toronto, Cleveland, New York, Boston, Detroit. I think that's the playoffs for me. Anything can happen, but it's a lock between Charlotte from the 10 all the way to the 5 seed. It's a difference of 3 games, so we'll see what happens. But right now, that's my picks, and we are going to be moving on to the Western Conference Final. Western Conference. And then after that'll be it. So this one's going to be a little quicker because there's not a lot of, I don't really give a crap about the 7 through 10 because there's not a lot to really look at. So OKC they're in the playoffs no matter what. 57-15. San Antonio's right behind them, only 3 games out. We still got 2.5 weeks left in the season. 54-18. Los Angeles, the Lakers are playing hella good, man. They're 9-1 in the last 10. They just lost last night. And to be honest, I think they could have won that game. A lot of bad. I don't want to blame the refs. A lot of bad calls. We had some missed shots, some questionable turnovers. But I think the Lakers could have won that game. But it's all right. It is what it is. But right now, we're probably going to stick to that 3 seed. There's no way. I don't think we're catching San Antonio. Obviously, not catching OKC. But for me, I think the Lakers playing the way they're playing. LeBron's playing out of his mind. At 41 years old, taking the back seat to be the third option, I think is fantastic. He's finally embraced it. I think he's finally fully healthy and back to normal. Luka is playing out of his fucking mind. He should be right there in the MVP conversation as well, because he's on a tear. He scored 63 points against the Heat and it looked like he didn't even break a sweat. Obviously, he was tired because he had a game the previous night before, but he didn't even look like he was trying out there. He was just doing whatever. And then you got Denver, who's right behind us, 2 games. We beat Denver. We've beaten Minnesota. We've beaten Houston. We've beaten Phoenix. We've beaten all these teams. So I'm not afraid of any of these teams. The only 2 teams, obviously, OKC, San Antonio. But I think in a 7-game series, I'm sorry, I'm sticking with it. You got LeBron James in a 7-game series. I don't care. I'm going to give a shit how old he is. You got a shot. You got Luka there. You got AR. If it really depends on DeAndre Ayton. If Ayton is able to play good and is able to fucking rebound the way he played against Nikola Jokic, if he can just do something and give us something on the defensive end and the rebounding, and then he could put in a couple 10, 12 points, 8 to 10 rebounds in a game, in a series, we're good. Once in a while, get a 20 burger, we'll be fine. I don't think that's a lot to ask, but we'll see. Minnesota, still one of my dark horses. Them in Los Angeles, dark horses. Still can't deny Anthony Edwards. Ant-Man is him. He's a monster. Minnesota's been on a little bit of a streak. They're 5-5 in the last 10. It hasn't been too hot for them. Same with the Rockets. They lost 2 straight to the Lakers, both at home. They haven't been there. Kevin Durant did pass Michael Jordan for, I believe, 5th all-time in scoring, 5th or 4th. But they're 5-5 too, not that bad. The Nuggets are 6-4, but right there, 9-1, 9-1, 10-0. So Houston, Minnesota, Denver, they're right there. Obviously, it's a difference of 2.5 between the 3 and the 6 seeds, so very tight there. But just the way the Lakers have been playing, and then just seeing the way Denver, Minnesota, and the Rockets have been playing, a little bit of more of a gap than I think. Just take away the games, I think it's a little bit more of a gap. And then you got Phoenix taking on the Clipper. You got Phoenix at 40-32. Brooks getting injured midway in the season really messed them up. They were a good team. Devin Booker got injured. He's back. They're okay, but they're on a 5-5 in the last 10 as well. They're not looking so hot. I don't know what the hell's wrong with the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard came back from the All-Star game, was a monster, then got hurt. He's out for a couple games. You're always going to have to keep them in because of Kawhi, but I don't think they're doing shit either. The Trailblazers, I like the way they've been playing. They have a very good young core. Maybe Dame comes back in the playoffs. I don't know. That would be great for them if they do make it out of the play-in. But who knows? Golden State is a mess. If Steph comes back, you always got to watch for Steph. But Moody just went down the previous night with, I believe, an ACL tear. He just jumped and his knee just popped. So they're down another guy as well as Jimmy Butler. They got Porzingis. You can never count out Steph and Golden State, but they got to make sure he's healthy. They're 2-8 the last 10. They're playing like garbage. So they're not as of a threat, I would say. Portland, they could beat a lot of people. Portland's played really well this year. LA, you could always say with Kawhi. Phoenix, you got Devin Booker. If Dylan Brooks comes back, you got him too. It's a lot. It's a lot closer than what we see here. just this team right here will depend if Steph comes back healthy and can they get it out of the play-in. I just don't think they have the team for it. For me, I think it's going to stay OKC, San Antonio, Lakers. I think Minnesota will end up being the 4th seed. Denver will be the 5th seed. Houston will be the 6th. I'd say Phoenix stays there. I would say the Clippers make the playoffs. So I think it's the 7, Phoenix versus Golden State. And I think Phoenix beats Golden State to go as the 7th seed. And then I think the Clippers play a gritty game against Portland, and they're able to get the job done because of some Kawhi Leonard heroics. And I think it's OKC, San Antonio, Los Angeles, Denver, Minnesota, Houston, Phoenix, Clippers. I think that's the 8 teams that are going to the playoffs after the play-in. So that's the West. This is the East. My dark horses for the West, like I said, are the Lakers, the Timberwolves, and then obviously dark horse, you can't really say the Lakers, but they were not expected to be as good as they are. And I think a lot of people are now realizing it. Minnesota as well. The East, like I said, I think it's a dark horse would be, I would say the Hornets, just not to win it, but just to upset on a top team, would say the Hornets. And I would have to go with the Celtics. Yes, the Celtics are the number 2 seed in the East, but who the hell thought that they were going to be here? And who the hell thought that Jason Tatum was going to be back? And looking the way he is. So I'd say a dark horse to win it all would be the Celtics, or at least get there, would be the Celtics. To upset any team in this entire seeding would be the Hornets, because they're just young, gritty, and they're gonna try their asses off. Other than that, guys, that is pretty much it for the podcast here on the Fire Sports Pod, where everything we got is hot. I'm your host, Zack Jackson. We're powered by StreamYard, where StreamYard makes the dream yard go. We'll see you guys all for Season 9, Episode number 13 on Thursday. I'm going to try to get the Twitch and Kick all up and running, so we'll be live on both those as well as the podcast here. So we'll have that on Kick and Twitch, as well as our YouTube post as always, and our Apple Podcast and Spotify. Other than that, guys, have a great rest of your night, and I'll see you all on Thursday. Peace out.